Buddhism, the path from suffering to happiness. The light of enlightenment. Have you ever paused to wonder why humanity seeks meaning in life, even in the face of immense suffering and turmoil? From ancient times to today, this question has remained one of humanity's greatest contemplations. Over 2,500 years ago, an extraordinary figure emerged, the Buddha. He didn't look to gods for answers or rely on supernatural forces. Instead, he faced the reality of life head-on and uncovered profound truths about existence. From suffering to happiness, from social injustice to equality, from division to harmony, the teachings of the Buddha are not merely a guiding light for individuals, but a path that offers hope and transformation for all of humanity. Today, we'll embark on a journey to explore these timeless values, lessons that have the power not only to change lives, but to touch the deepest corners of the human heart. The foundation of Buddhism, from suffering to liberation. Life is a tapestry of joy and sorrow, but if you take a closer look, you'll see that suffering is a constant thread woven through every moment. From physical pain like illness and aging, to emotional wounds like loss and separation, suffering is an unavoidable part of existence. The Buddha, through his profound enlightenment, recognized this truth. He declared that suffering is the first of the Four Noble Truths, the foundation of Buddhism. Yet, suffering isn't a reason to despair. It is the starting point for transformation. According to the Buddha, suffering arises from craving, our relentless desires and attachments. We long for happiness, but cling to impermanent things, which inevitably leads to disappointment and pain. The Buddha taught that to end suffering, we must let go of these cravings, not by rejecting life, but by deeply understanding its fleeting nature and naturally releasing our grip on it. This release leads to nirvana, the state where suffering and mental anguish cease to exist. Nirvana isn't a distant or mystical realm, but a profound state of peace and liberation, free from all bonds. But how do we reach this state? The Buddha charted the path through the middle way, a balanced approach that avoids extremes, encapsulated in the Eightfold Path, a practical guide of principles that gradually lead to liberation. Buddhism is not a pessimistic philosophy. On the contrary, it is a beacon of realism and hope. Suffering is a challenge, but the path to liberation is always available, waiting for those who are willing to walk it with patience and wisdom. Is Buddhism bleak? Absolutely not. It is a practical way of life that guides us toward genuine happiness, the kind of happiness found in living calmly and fully in the present moment. Buddhism and social equality. Over 2,500 years ago, Indian society was entrenched in a rigid caste system. A person's worth wasn't determined by their character, but by the circumstances of their birth. From the revered Brahmins at the top to the so-called untouchables at the bottom, injustice permeated every corner of life. In this deeply divided world, the Buddha emerged as a revolutionary voice, breaking down social barriers and planting the seeds of equality. He declared, "One is not an outcast or a Brahmin by birth, but by one's actions." For the Buddha, a person's value lay not in their lineage or social status, but in how they lived their life. This wasn't just a statement, it became a guiding principle that ran through all his teachings. In the Sangha, the community of the Buddhist disciples, there was no room for discrimination. From barbers like Upali and street sweepers like Sunita to courtesans like Ambapali, all were welcomed and given the opportunity to practice, and achieve enlightenment. The Buddha granted equal access to liberation, regardless of one's social standing or background. But the Buddha didn't stop at words. He demonstrated equality through his actions, lifting the dignity of those society had cast aside. He encouraged his disciples to not only seek personal enlightenment, but also to serve and help others without bias. This spirit of inclusion inspired future generations, laying the foundation for a more just and equitable society. Buddhism is a religion of compassion and fairness. It excludes no one, instead opening its doors wide so that all can walk the path of liberation. It reminds us that a person's true worth isn't defined by where they begin, but by the choices they make and the way they live their life each day. The role of women in Buddhism. In ancient India, women were often regarded as inferior and lived under the heavy constraints of a patriarchal society. They had little agency over their own lives, and even the birth of a daughter was often seen as a misfortune. Yet the Buddha, with his profound compassion and wisdom, brought a revolutionary change to how women were perceived. He not only recognized their inherent worth, but also gave them opportunities to develop intellectually and spiritually, something unheard of in that era. Initially, the Buddha hesitated to admit women into the Sangha, concerned about the challenges they might face in a society steeped in prejudice. However, after the persistent and heartfelt request of his stepmother, Mahapajapati, and the intercession of Ananda, the Buddha established the Bhikkhuni Sangha, the first monastic community for women in religious history. This community was structured with equal discipline and rights as its male counterpart. Within the Bhikkhuni Sangha, women from all walks of life, royalty, noblewomen, street sweepers, and even courtesans, found a place to practice and achieve liberation. Stories such as that of Kema, a queen celebrated for her beauty, who renounced her pride after realizing the fleeting nature of physical appearance, or Patikara, who overcame the loss of her entire family to attain enlightenment, exemplify the transformative power of the Buddha's teachings. The Buddha not only freed women from societal restrictions, but also affirmed that both men and women are equally capable of reaching enlightenment if they follow the path. He once remarked, "A daughter may be a treasure greater than a son." Women's roles in Buddhism extended beyond personal practice. Figures like Visakha, a leading benefactor, and Soma, who boldly confronted Mara, the tempter, inspired future generations. These women proved that, when granted equal opportunities, they could make profound contributions to spiritual growth and societal advancement. Through the Buddha's vision, women found dignity, equality, and the opportunity to thrive. His teachings remain a beacon of hope, affirming that gender is no barrier to wisdom or liberation. Nonviolence and compassion in Buddhism. At the heart of Buddhism lies one of its most enduring and transformative values, the principles of nonviolence and compassion. The Buddha not only taught people to love one another, but extended that compassion to all living beings, regardless of size or strength. He once declared, "No one has the right to take the life of another, for all beings cherish life equally." The commitment to nonviolence is evident in the strict precepts observed by Buddhist monks. They are instructed not to harm any living creature, even refraining from digging in the earth to avoid disturbing tiny organisms. Even their drinking water must be filtered to prevent unintentional harm to microscopic life. One of the most compelling historical examples of this principle is found in the story of Emperor Asoka. Once a fierce and violent ruler, Asoka underwent a profound transformation after embracing the Buddha's teachings. He became a paragon of compassion and nonviolence, inscribing his edicts on stone pillars for all to see. One such inscription reads, "Let no living creature be harmed. Even the insects in the straw should not be burned." These words reflect not only a deep compassion for life, but also a vision for harmony between humans and nature. Yet, the spirit of nonviolence in Buddhism transcends the treatment of animals. It seeks to dismantle barriers between people, fostering unity and kindness across divisions of class, race, or religion. The Buddha urged, "If we cannot live together as brothers and sisters, then even the most beautiful teachings become meaningless." Unlike many other movements, Buddhism has never relied on violence to spread its message. For more than 2,500 years, not a single drop of blood has been spilled in the name of the Buddha. No empires were built through force or coercion under the banner of the Dharma. Instead, Buddhism's light has spread through compassion and wisdom, inspiring people to live harmoniously with one another and with all living things. Buddhism, a guiding light for over 2,500 years. For more than 2,500 years, Buddhism has served as a beacon of light for humanity. From its teachings on suffering and liberation, social equality and the role of women, to its emphasis on nonviolence and compassion, the Buddha's wisdom extends beyond individuals, offering a path to build a peaceful and compassionate world. The Buddha left us with a profound message. All beings have the potential for enlightenment if they live with compassion and wisdom. This teaching reminds us that true happiness doesn't come from what we possess, but from how we face life and treat those around us. In today's turbulent world, the Buddhist path remains as relevant and transformative as ever. It is an invitation to live more kindly, love more deeply, and discover true happiness within ourselves.